So I said in a video about David Packman and Brian Tyler Cohen like a couple of weeks ago that I hate liberals more than I hate most political groups. And I said that because liberals take people's feelings that are valid in terms of anger at the status quo, anger at fascism, anger even at capitalism, and they direct it into a meaningless place that only props up the status quo. And you've seen that a lot with the liberal reaction to Charlie Kirk and how they've spoke about him afterwards. And these are also the same liberals who have often said, pretty correct things about his rhetoric and how he's espoused like very hateful views about pretty much every single marginalized group of people in the United States. And now suddenly they're all like really upset. And I think it shows you many things. Part of it is liberals still want to be in the club. They want to be in the same ecosystem as the far right and these mainstream conservatives. So what they're saying right now is this like hysteria from conservatives targeting anyone who doesn't bow down and say Charlie Kirk was a great guy, and they're going along with that because they want to stay in the club. And you're seeing people like sanitize his image completely. It reminds me of the start of that Lenin book. He talks about Karl Marx being sanitized by like the German elite to make him seem like some sort of like sock dem, less revolutionary figure. This is like the opposite thing, where you take someone who is like really hateful and bigoted and has said so much terrible shit on camera, and then you act like he was a saint or something. It's bizarre. And I don't understand why liberals have to trick anyone. I think AOC and a couple other like politicians, they made the exact like correct point. He's a victim of gun violence, and gun violence that happened to a school in the same week. He's a similar victim. And also the two people who did the killings were also conservatives as well. So that is an epidemic in America right now, and that's what should be talked about, and that's what you can talk about. You don't have to talk about, oh, Charlie Kirk was actually a great guy and stuff. It's like, okay, he is a victim like the others, and let's talk about that, and let's talk about how you reform that or what you should do or what the actual problem is. It is far-right ideologies with a very easy access to guns, which is causing so many deaths in America right now. And liberals, you can just talk about that. You don't need to cry, as we're going to see, about it. Because liberals, no one believes you. No one believes you. So it's just so obvious to the rest of us. You're bending the knee to fascism. You're bowing down to the fascists who are saying it's transgender ideology and trying to target trans people because of far-right people doing shootings. And you're helping them with this. So Ezra Klein, he put out an article on the New York Times. Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. I get so mad people get paid to write fucking garbage like this. So Ezra Klein writes, the foundation of a free society is the ability to participate in politics without the fear of violence. To lose that is to risk losing everything. Charlie Kirk and his family just lost everything. As a country, we came a step closer to losing everything too. Like, I don't understand. This is the tipping point. Not everything that's been going on lately, not all the terrible shit that's been going on in America, while it's doing, helping the worst crimes against humanity and cracking down on free speech to, keep that going. That wasn't the tipping point. It's this. Talks about the recent violence against politicians in America, talks about the stuff about Josh Shapiro, and obviously the people who were killed in Minnesota as well, where was the massive outrage for that? Where was Keir Starmer talking about that? I doubt he did that. And then here's how Klein frames it. You can dislike much of what Kirk believed, and the following statement is still true. He was practicing politics in the right way. He was showing up to campuses and talking with anyone who would talk to him. He was one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion. When the left thought its hold on the hearts and minds of college students was nearly absolute, Kirk showed up again and again to break it. Slowly, then all at once, he did. College-age voters shifted sharply right in the 2024 election. That is such an insane framing. On social media, I've seen mostly decent reactions to his death. There is grief and shock from the right and the left, but I've seen two forms of reaction that are misguided, however comprehensible the rage or horror that provoked them. One is a move on the left to wrap his death around his views. After all, he defended the Second Amendment, even admitted it meant accepting innocent deaths. Another on the right is to turn his murder into a justification for an all-out war, a Reichstag fire for our time. I'm not going to read any more about it. I think it gives you the gist of what he's going for. But again, it's a whitewashing. So in Ezra Klein's imagination, Charlie Kirk is a humble conservative who, on his own, without any fame, without any money, without any backing, he went to college campuses all around America and would debate anyone. Like, I am a conservative, college students, come and debate me. And we're going to have a debate, we're going to have an exchange of ideas, and maybe I'll change your mind. That's not what Charlie Kirk was. Charlie Kirk was funded by big conservative money. He was propped up by big conservative money to espouse the most racist, hateful views. He would go to college campuses to film videos about how college kids were idiots, and he would use that and market that on YouTube to everyone as part of his propaganda network. And he didn't change people's views through the art of persuasion. He changed people's views, if this is even right, you know, if we even say Charlie Kirk had a massive influence on changing Gen Z views, if we even say he had that influence on Gen Z shifting to Donald Trump, it's because of the massive propaganda network he had, not because he was humbly going around college campuses debating anyone he would talk to. And why can't you point out he supported the Second Amendment like in a fanatical way? Why can't you point that out? You point that out, liberals, as a link to the thing that took his life, which was an access to firearms. That's not rubbing it in. That's just making the concrete thing of, you know, if you say something like that and then it happens to you as well, to me, that just shows the position was wrong. And it's a learning thing of, yeah, you can say that when it's not you and it doesn't affect you, but when it affects your life, you're obviously going to have a different opinion, and people around him are going to have a different opinion about the access to firearms because it's done something to someone they love as well. Liberals, it is not wrong to point that out, and pretending Charlie Kirk was some humble person from humble like background and was not propped up by dark money and stuff like that is just fucking insane. And it's clear Ezra Klein's writing stuff like this to just be in the club because he doesn't want to be tarred with everyone else who's making the point that, yeah, this guy said terrible shit. And the problem we should be talking about is the gun violence that claimed his life, not that he was some sort of bastion of freedom of speech, because he wasn't either. And I bet I could find a million tweets of him saying that he's not, because we've seen that with things like Israel. I bet he wasn't defending the college campuses and all those protests against Israel. I doubt I could find any tweet of him saying, might not be a popular position, but I'm a free speech absolutist, and I believe that there should be no regulation of free speech. So these college campuses that I love so much, where I have this massive debate with everyone, they should be allowed to have these encampments. I doubt he said that. Now, it's not just millennials doing this. Dean Withers, who I've hated for a long time, and I remember people went crazy one time because I wrote on Twitter that I absolutely hated this guy. He reacted to it. And again, just like Ezra Klein's article, this is completely performative. Does anyone think this guy's upset by this? So he actually was crying when he heard about it. So let's watch it.
Him and his family, they don't deserve that. You know, imagine being a 12-year-old, you know, watching your dad fucking die. Nobody deserves that. Not even Charlie Kirk. Nobody deserves that. I'm sorry that you guys have to see me like this.
I don't know if this guy's part of the chorus crew. He's part of a slew of Gen Z influencers who don't talk about Gaza. So imagine a 12-year-old's dad being killed. Well, I've just watched on social media for 2 years loads of 5-year-olds having their whole families killed. And people like Dean, where are the tears for Gaza? You don't even talk about that. So we know this is totally performative. Yeah, it's terrible. I feel bad for his child. Of course I do. I feel bad that he has to grow up knowing this happened to his father and all the lasting impacts that's going to have on him and all the terrible shit that's going to do to him. I obviously have sympathy for that. Well, I'm not crying about it though, because I've seen so much terrible shit over the last 2 years. I've covered so much terrible shit over the last 2 years. I've talked about all these children, and it's people like Charlie Kirk who supported their deaths. Where are your tears for them? Where are your tears for anyone like who's been killed in school violence as well, Dean Withers? You don't have it, and you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. You can say what I just said. You can say that you feel bad for his family. That's fine. Everyone would believe you that you feel bad for his family. No one believes the tears because they're fake as fuck, just like you. It's just a quick video to talk about. Liberals will always capitulate to fascism. It really doesn't fucking matter. But also what's funny is these liberals don't see the fascists will never accept them. Like, so many fascist accounts were saying you're full of shit to both of these people. They're like, you don't give a shit. We blame you as much as the others. And that's what I'm trying to say. You don't have to do this. You can be morally consistent. When someone bad who said terrible things dies, you don't have to pretend they were good. And especially when they died in a political violence, as they're all saying, we'll talk about that. Talk about that issue. Talk about the actual issues around this. Yes, you can feel sympathy for his family and his children, of course. It's a horrific thing. You know, that violence was extreme. It's on camera forever, multiple angles. You can imagine it's really going to impact these people. But when the Trump administration are using this to ramp up fascism massively, they're doing all these things. They're doing it to silence people. And your reaction to this is seeing that and being like, oh, well, I could speak out and say what the Trump administration is doing is really bad and talk about Charlie Kirk in a more neutral way. Or I could start bawling my eyes out and talk about how he was a martyr for free speech. What do you think liberals will choose? Because liberals only care about fucking money. They care about their own individual growth. People like Ezra Klein and Dean Withers are completely narcissistic. They only give a shit about that stuff. And yeah, just don't ever listen to liberals, please. And hopefully this and the stuff with the chorus crew will make you not trust liberals ever again. But that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.